Hello students, hope all are fine. Human beings earlier uses stone, timber, mud, etc. as their building material. Nowadays, principal modern building materials are masonry, mass concrete, reinforced concrete, pre-stressed concrete, glass, timber and structural steel. Out of all these modern structural material, we will be concentrating mainly on structural steel in my subsequent lectures. In our subsequent slides, we will go through the merit and demerit of a structural steel, its property, design codal provisions, analysis and design of primary structural members and its picture design. Here, I would like to draw your kind attention towards the role and responsibilities of a designer. Designer has to consider several factors while designing the structure, such as material to be used, arrangement of structural systems, type of joints, method of fabrication and erection, various services such as lift, water supply, power supply, ventilation, heating, type of cladding, roofing, safety, economy, aesthetic look, required corrosion protection, required fire protection, etc. Out of all these factors, factor related to the design criteria, material specifications, its behavior will be studied in our subsequent lecture series. First of all, we will have a glance on our syllabus. We will be going to study a Unit 4 and a Unit 5. Unit 4 is having a marks weightage of near about 20%. It basically deals with the limit state design philosophy, bolted and welded connection design, type of connection, they are lap joints and butt joints, etc. Unit 5 is having a mark weightage of 25%. It basically deals with the element design such as tension member, compression member, beam, beam column design. It also includes the slab base and gusset base foundation design. These are the three best reference books which deals with the effective understanding of the subject as shown on the screen. The first reference book is The Design of Steel Structure by N. Subramaniam. Second is The Design of Steel Structures by S. Ramamrutham. And third is The Design of Steel Structures by P. Dayaratnam. Structural design is considered a science as well as an art. The aim of any structural designer should be to design a structure in such a way that it fulfill its intended purpose during its intended lifespan and be adequately safe and have adequate serviceability. In addition, the structure should be economically viable, aesthetically pleasant, and environmental friendly. All these criteria can be effectively achieved by applying relative design code while designing the structure. The design code serves at least four distinct functions. They ensure adequate safety by specifying certain essential minimum requirements for the design. They aid the designers in the designing process. Often the results of sophisticated analysis are made available in the form of simple formulas or charts. They ensure consistency among the different engineers. They protect the structural engineers from disputes, though code in many cases do not provide legal protection. Majorly, we will deal with three codes. First is IS 800-2007. It's a code of practice for construction in steel structure. IS 875 Part 125 is a loading code which deals with a load, that is dead load, live load, wind load, earthquake load and snow load. And SP6 Part 1 is a standard steel section code for hot drawn steel, and SP6 Part 6 is a standard steel section code for cold drawn steel. Now, let's see where structural steels are majorly used. Almost all bridges of railway departments are of steel material. Why railway always prefer steel as for development of its bridge structures? We will see this in our subsequent lectures. Structural steel is also used in bridges, transmission tower, refinery, tanks, whether it's an ESR, it's an elevated storage reservoir, or GSI, it's a ground supported reservoir, and high-rise buildings. We will see some of the largest steel structures in the world. The Beijing National Stadium in Beijing, that is China, is a crisscross beam structures which resembles the nest-like appearance, and the total steel used is near about 42,000 tons. Next is the Sydney Harbour Bridge located in Australia. It consists of near about 6 million hand-driven rivets, and total steel used is near about 53,000 tons. This is a well-known structure located in Xingya district, Taipei, Taiwan. It consists of near about 101 floors above the ground and 5 basement story. The total height of the tower is 508 meters, including its transmission tower. The average floor area is near about 2200 square meter. Total floor area of the complete building is near about 1,93,400 square meters. It takes near about 5 years to complete the structure. The total cost of the structure is approximate 700 million US dollars. In Taipei 101 Tower, massive supporting pillars are made up of boxes of 8 mm thick steel plate filled with concrete for stiffness. However, only steel is used above 62nd floor in Taipei 101 Tower. 660 tons of steel pendulum serves as a tuned mass damper which reduces the building's weight by 40%. Again, some of the world's either full or partial steel structures are tabulated on the screen. Now, let's talk about some of the advantages of the steel structure over RCC structures. The main advantage of steel structure is its strength, speed in erection, prefabrication, and demountability. Steel structures has the highest strength to the weight ratio of any construction material, so it can provide a large span, more space with smaller cross-sectional size compared to the concrete. Structural steel offers much better compressive and tensile strength than a concrete and enables lighter construction. Unlike masonry or reinforced concrete structures, steel structures can be easily recycled. Structural steel is pest and insect resistance. Structural steel can be easily, accurately, effectively manufactured and can be delivered at much greater speed, easy to transport and handle. No formwork is required. In short, structural steel or structural buildings are strong, durable, light in weight, easy installation and speed in construction, versatile, flexible, ductile, easily fabricated in different shapes, fire resistance as compared to the wood structures, pest and insect resistance, energy efficient, improves construction quality and having low risk index. Now let's discuss about the disadvantages of the structural steel over reinforced concrete structures. Can you identify this structure? Yes, it is Ambani's house, Antilia. Why concrete is preferred as base material and not structural steel? Do you think that rusting is an issue? If your answer is yes, then are all these gets rusted? If we are able to effectively ground the excited electrons, steel structure has higher durability in moist, salty, or even waterlogged area. Do you think that fire resistance is the problem? If your answer is yes, then I would like to quote the terrorist attack on America's iconic structure, that is World Trade Center. Failure was due to differential thermal expansion, plasticity of the metal leads to the sag of floor truss, pulls the perimetric column inward, results into the bowl-like curvature in the column. This leads to elastoplastic buckling of hot column, that's of multiple floors, leads to the upper part of a tower falls down by at least one floor height. The kinetic energy of the upper part was neither elastically resisted nor plastically absorbed by the lower part of the tower. This was a progressive collapse, which is due to the buckling plus connection failure. Though the fire reaches 1500 degrees centigrade, due to the effective fire insulator used, connections and the members were able to retain structures for 45 minutes. Do you think that the structure will not be economical for Mukesh Ambani? Mukesh Ambani has majority of its structures in a structural steel material, whether it's in refinery, petrol pumps or malls. Person is one of the richest person of the India, hence economy is not the problem as far as the construction of his dream house is concerned. What else you can think of? Yes, structural steel lack the site moldability property. Structural steel can't be molded in the form we like as in RCC structure. We are used to use balcony and other elevation projection for our day-to-day requirement. Such elevation projections are quite difficult in a steel structure while they are quite easily be made in a routine RCC structure. The left photo is of steel structure which is without balcony. Tom Cruise majorly deals with a steel structure in his movie where we are not having balcony. Right structure is an RCC structures with balcony. Jackie Chan majorly deals with an RCC buildings in his movie. Other disadvantages includes that we require some skilled laborers in our construction. Again, without adequate fire protection, structural steel shows some distortion under high temperature. If not properly maintained, structural steel shows more environmental effect than that of an RCC structure. Now let's summarize the disadvantages of the structural steel. Structural steel is having low on-site moldability property. Skilled labors are required. At elevated temperature, steel without fire insulator shows more distortion than an RCC structure. If not properly maintained, steel structures shows more environmental effects than an RCC structure. Structural steels are more expensive compared to an RCC structure for low-rise structures. RCC structures are aesthetically more decent than that of a steel structure. Now we'll go for an understanding of stress-strain curve of a mild steel and tension. Consider the mild steel bar specimen as shown in figure on top right corner. Here In this graph, y-axis represents the stress and x-axis represents the strain. There are various parts in the curve which we will study during this discussion. OA represents the proportionality limit. It means that the stress is linearly proportional to strain. Hence, Hooke's law is valid in this portion. Point B represents the elastic limit. That is, till point B, material will have the ability to regain its original shape after removal of external force and no permanent deformation is observed in the material. This material property is known as elasticity. Corresponding stress on y-axis is known as yield stress and is denoted by Fy. Applying the load beyond the point B, plastic deformation will start to occur. Point C represents the upper yield point and point C dash represents the lower yield point. Point C is the maximum load or stress required to initiate the plastic deformation of a material, and this point is identified as upper yielding point. Point C dash is the minimum load or stress required to maintain the plastic behavior of a material, and this point is identified as the lower yielding point. Portion between B, C and C dash is identified as elastoplastic range. Beyond point C dash till D, material starts yielding without appreciable increase in stress or load. Deformation will be permanent. Portion between C dash to D is identified as yielding range. Beyond point D, with increase in stress or load, strain increases till E. Point E is the maximum stress or load a material can withstand without failure, and this point is identified as ultimate stress point. Corresponding stress on y-axis is known as ultimate stress and is denoted by Fu. Portion between D to E is identified as strain hardening range. Beyond point E, necking of a material starts. That is, the cross-sectional area of a specimen begins to reduce rapidly over a relatively smaller length of bar. Bar fails finally at point F. Portion between E to F is identified as the strain softening range. The figure shows the test specimen rod, the failure of test specimen rod, and necking behavior of a test specimen rod. Now let's try to understand the material strength where the elastic to plastic deformation are clearly identified. Material strength is the measure of stress a material can withstand. Two different values are typically used to define the strength of a material, that is yield strength and the ultimate strength. Let's define them by taking a look at the stress strain curve obtained from a tensile test. The ultimate tensile strength of a material is defined as the maximum stress which reached during the tensile test. Corresponding to this point on the stress strain curve is identified as Fu. The yield strength is defined as the stress at which a material begins to deform plastically. Stressing a material beyond its yield strength will give a permanent deformation after the load is removed. Many structural components are designed to ensure that they only deform elastically. This makes the yield strength a commonly used criteria for defining the failure of an engineering design course. It is possible for a failure to occur at stress levels well below the yield strength if the applied load varies with the time. This failure mode is called fatigue. For some material, the transition of elastic to plastic deformation is not clearly defined. In these cases, the yield strength can be defined using 0.2% offset method. This involves drawing a line with a slope equal to the Young's modulus and shifting it 0.2% to its right of the stress strain curve. So far, we have only discussed the strength in a tensile direction. But what about the compressive direction? For ductile material like mild steel, the yield and the ultimate strength are very similar in the tension and the compression direction. Tensile testings are usually easier to carry out than the compressive tests, and so compressive tests are not often performed for this material. For bitter materials like concrete and ceramics, however, the material strength is much larger in compression than in tension. What is the material ductility? Let's first define the material ductility. Ductility is a measure of the ability of a material to deform plastically before fracture. Let's return to our stress strain curve. Material which undergoes a large amount of plastic deformation before they breaks are called a material ductility. They fracture at a very large strain. My steel and gold are examples of very ductile materials. Materials which fractures at very low strain with little or no plastic deformation are said to be brittle. Glass and ceramic like porcelains are the example of brittle material. Because they don't deform plastically, the concept of the yield strength is irrelevant for a brittle material. There is no defined transition point between the ductile and brittle material. Typically, a material which has a strain at a fracture of less than 5% is considered to be a brittle material. Ductility can be time dependent. A lot of different types of steel, for example, are ductile at room temperature but becomes brittle when the temperature drops below the ductile transition temperature. This transition temperature is an important design consideration because ductile failure is normally preferred to a brittle failure. One very famous example for a brittle failure is the Titanic. The icy water of North Atlantic are thought to have caused the steel of the ship's hull to drop below its ductile to a brittle transition temperature, resulting into catastrophic brittle fracture. Material toughness is a measure of the ability of a material to absorb energy up to fracture. It can be calculated as they are under the stress strain curve. If the area under the stress strain curve is larger, the material will have high toughness and so be able to absorb a large amount of energy before fracturing. For a material to have a high toughness, it should have a good balance of both ductility and strength. Low strength material and a brittle material tend to have a low toughness. A related property is resilience, which is ability of a material to absorb energy when deformed elastically. It corresponds to the area under the stress strain curve but only within elastic range. Materials with high resilience are well suited for application where plastic deformation is to be avoided.
This slide shows the physical property of a structural steel. The steel used for structural works shall conform to IS 2062 published in 2011. It majorly deals with hot rolled, medium and high tensile structural steel. Most commonly used grade is Fe415. Following are few physical properties of a structural steel. For detail, please refer clause number 2.2.4.1 of IS 800-2007. Modulus of elasticity is having a value of 2 into 10 raised to 5 MPa. Shear modulus is equals to 0.769 into 10 raised to 5 MPa. Poisson's ratio in an elastic range should be taken as 0.3 and Poisson's ratio in a plastic range should be taken as 0.5. Unit mass of steel is 7,850 kg per meter cube or 78.5 kilonewton per meter cube. Coefficient of thermal expansion is to be taken as 12 into 10 raised to minus 6 per degree centigrade. Approximate melting point is 1530 degree centigrade. All these constant values will be used while designing a steel member. Values should be at a tip of your tongue. This slide gives the mechanical properties of a structural steel. Here there is a photo image of table number 1 from IS 2007. Some of the most frequently used mechanical properties in designing is yield stress, ultimate tensile stress, and minimum elongation. All these properties will be used while designing a steel members of different grade.
Let's summarize our today's work. Till now, we have discussed advantages and disadvantages of a steel structure. We have studied the stress strain curve of a mild steel. We have understand the material strength, material ductility, material toughness, material resilience, various physical and mechanical properties of the structural steel. In our next lecture, we will go through various design philosophy, load combination, plastic design theory, section classification, standard sections available, etc. With this, we conclude our lecture. Thank you.